Barry? I could hear Mike's voice as I drifted out of a lovely dream. Barry, he said again with strengthened resolve. I opened my eyes and found him standing in the middle of the living room with a pizza and a six-pack of soda. He had the most perplexed look on his face. An instant later I was fully awake and aware of his confusion. I sat upright as fast as I could in my condition and gaped at him. He continued to stare and I flushed red with embarrassment. It's not every day that your best friend and roommate comes home early to find you dressed in like a pregnant woman. "What are you doing?" he asked. I said the first thing I could think of, an excuse I'd actually used before. "I'm just breaking in a Halloween costume." "In April?" I don't think he was buying it. "I'm very thorough. It's a very complex costume." I could tell by the look on his face that he really didn't buy it. He set down the pizza and pulled out one of the sodas, which I noticed was already open. As he took a swig, I saw his eyebrow go up. Years of friendship gave me a good idea of what this look meant. "I'm a crossdresser," I finally mumbled. My heart sank. I knew I'd been taking a risk every time I dressed up in the apartment, and it was just a matter of time before Mike found out. I sat there quietly, unable to make eye contact. "Duh. Thank you, Captain Obvious," he laughed and sat down beside me on the couch. His attitude surprised me. "So what are those?" he asked, pointing at the 3 protrusions on my torso. All my fears instantly washed away, and I knew he would still be my best friend. "Water balloons," I answered. "Aren't you afraid they'll break?" "They're doubled up. One inside another. I've learned a few lessons over the years." He laughed. I laughed. I was so happy he had taken it so well. We talked on for about an hour. Mike was full of questions and I was more than pleased to answer him after having hidden these things from him for so long. Touching my belly, he was surprised to find it warm. When I stood up to model for him, his first words were, "Wow, you look good." I knew he was lying, since I didn't have makeup on or my hair done. He admitted my head could use some work, but he swore that from the neck down I could pass any day. I blushed. I cooked dinner in the belly that night, which was a pleasing experience because I could do it in front of Mike. By the end of that evening, it was as if nothing had changed, and we were joking and bullshitting like the best friends we were. In the following weeks I started to wear my stuff around the house more often, now that I didn't have to hide from Mike. Whenever he came home and found me dressed, he'd say, "Honey, I'm home," and start asking if dinner was ready, where the kids were, and if I could make him a martini, like something out of the Donna Reed show. I always played along, and eventually I was dressed at least 5 nights a week. Even when we'd cruise the mall, Mike would nudge me and point at some girl. Instead of remarking on her beauty, he'd say, "What do you think of that sweater?" This showed that he wanted to have fun with my dressing up as much as I did. Very often he'd drag me into a women's clothing store and start asking for help buying something for his sister. Then when they asked for size, he would turn to me and say I was her exact size, and that it would be best if I tried it on so he could see how it would look on her. Initially I protested, and Mike would whisper, "Go along with it," so I would. Eventually, I revealed my secret to the salesgirls, which only strengthened their resolve to help me. After a few months, I had built up a nice array of female clothing, started buying makeup specific to my skin tone, and even bought my first pair of heels. It was funny how my greatest fear had turned into my greatest proponent. Approximately 4 months after I had revealed my secret, Mike got the call. His girlfriend of 3 years, Tanya, whom he'd been corresponding with long distance for nearly a year, broke up with him. I knew it was tough on him because Tanya had been scheduled to come out and visit in only 3 weeks. Mike was very quiet at first, and I let him alone. In all our years as friends, we'd learned to read the other's signals and act accordingly. When he finally sat down and told me the tale, we talked about relationships, women, men, life, and the mysteries of space-time until early the next morning. Good thing it was a weekend. The biggest problem Mike had with the breakup was the psychological buildup he had in his head. The expectation of her arrival, the plans for going out, all of which were not going to happen now. My heart went out to my best friend, and I wished I could do something for him. Then I realized I could. I took what I needed and changed at the mall. The girls at the store were more than happy to finally see me dressed in all my glory with hair, makeup, and nails. When I left the store, no one gave me any more than a second glance to check out my figure. That did wonders for my self-confidence. I rang the doorbell, knowing Mike was on the computer. First he just shouted "Come in," but I rang the bell again. Seconds later, the door flung open. "May I help?" Mike started, and then froze. I started acting. "Honey! It's so good to see you." I dropped my suitcase, ran up to him and clasped my arms around his neck, hugging him tightly and lifting one foot. He didn't react, but I pulled back and continued. "I just flew in from the coast and boy are my arms tired," I joked, fighting to keep my voice feminine. I hadn't practiced a female voice very much. "Barry?" he asked. "Belinda. What are you doing?" I closed the door and shrugged. "Just go along with it," I suggested. Mike blinked twice, noticed the suitcase, glanced me over, and smiled. Then he pulled me close again and hugged me tight. "Belinda! You look great," he stammered. I could tell he was choked up. Mike brought me in and showed me my room. I commented it was messy, but it would do. After a tour of the apartment, he became very silent and wasn't sure what to say or do next. I noticed and smiled. "So are you going to take me out to dinner or what?" Mike had planned to take Tanya out to a lavish dinner and then out dancing at a local club. I knew for a fact his planned outfit was still hanging in his closet. He blinked twice, started to smile, and dashed into his room. "Gimme 5 minutes," he shouted back. "Take your time, sweetie." I wasn't sure at the time what made me call him that. I figured I was just getting into the mood and running with the situation. Mike was certainly getting into the mood. He opened my car door for me, offered his elbow when we walked to the restaurant, and held my chair when we were seated. Dinner was spectacular. Mike never once expressed concern with my being found out. I asked him about it later and he that I looked so good that no one in their right mind would think I was anything other than a lovely young woman. I blushed. We talked about things we'd never talked about before. Things about his family, his fears, where he'd expected to be at this point in his life. When Mike opened up like that to me, all I could do was reciprocate with private stories of my own. At one point in a conversation about relationships, Mike mentioned that he and I were almost the perfect couple. I agreed and left it at that. We left the restaurant around 10:30 p.m. and went straight to the club. The place was packed with men and women, drinking and dancing, a testimonial to indulgence. We found a small table and ordered drinks, but it wasn't long before I dragged Mike onto the dance floor. Once we got out there, we hardly left. Mike was quite the dancer, and I found it curious that I'd never seen him dance before. When a slow song finally started up and the couples on the floor began to move together, Mike paused. I glanced around nervously and then back at him. He smiled, took my hand and pulled me close, slipping his other hand around my waist. He never said a word, just led me around the dance floor like a true gentleman. The club closed around 3 a.m., and we were one of the last couples on the dance floor. When we reached the car, he once more opened my door for me. On the drive home, he only said one thing: "Thank you." The next day was like any other. No mention of the date was made at breakfast, nor when we both got home from work. It wasn't until after dinner, when we were watching TV, that Mike brought it up. "I had fun last night." "So did I." "I'm glad it helped you out." "Well, what would you say to helping me out again?" I turned to face him. "What do you mean?" "Well, I was thinking, maybe we could have a weekly date night, if you wanted to, that is." I was stunned silent. In a weird way, Mike was asking me out, and I was flattered. In another way, it was a business arrangement. He got a girl to pamper, and I got to dress up in public. Before he could take it back, I accepted. Saturday was chosen as the appointed night. Sometimes it was dinner and a movie, sometimes we went dancing, sometimes we just drove around. It was only a matter of time before someone we knew saw us out together. Mike told me that one of his coworkers, Mitch, had seen us out together. At first I tensed up. Did he know? Mike took me through the whole conversation. "Hey, Mike. Saw you out on Saturday." "Oh, really? Where?" "Mini golf." "So, who's the babe?" Mike just stared and smiled while I blushed. It seemed out secret was safe out in the open. Mike told Mitch my name was Belinda and I was a good friend who he sometimes took out. Then Mike laughed. "What?" He even asked if we were going out. This was a question that had yet to come up between us. Up until now we'd just been best friends, hanging out and having fun. But now it seemed this was getting serious. Mike noticed my curious look. "What?" "Well, are we?" Mike just stared at me for a minute straight. Then he looked away and lowered his brow, deep in thought. Finally, he looked back at me. Do you realize what you're suggesting?" His pause before had given me time to think up a response. "I'm suggesting that you make your relationship with my alter ego a bit more stable. Let's face it, she needs a good man to make her respectable, and I can't think of anyone better than my best friend to fit the bill." He started staring again. "Come on," I said with a poke, "go along with it." Mike glanced away, smiled, shrugged, and stood up. He extended a hand to me and I took it. Pulling me to my feet, he led me to my bedroom door and stopped. "Could I speak to Belinda, please? I have something important to ask her." I beamed. "Dinner or casual?" He caught right on to my suggestion. "Dinner." In 20 minutes we were ready and in the car. I chose my classiest evening dress with matching shoes and purse. Mike took me to a wonderful French restaurant and ordered for me. While we were waiting for the food, he placed a hand on mine. "Belinda, I want to ask you something, and you don't have to answer right now, but if I don't ask now I don't think I ever will." My face got hot with expectation. "Okay, Belinda, will you go out with me?" For an instant, I forgot that we'd already planned this out and felt like a young lady. 1,000 emotions ran through my mind, and I had to struggle to remember what to say in response. "Yes," I whispered. Mike smiled, stood, pulled me to my feet and gave me a big hug. I could feel the eyes of the other diners on our backs as we stood there for nearly a minute. Finally, Mike whispered in my ear, "Now we are the perfect couple." I blushed. Not much really changed after that, except we took to going out on more nights than Saturday. More of Mike's friends and coworkers saw us out, solidifying the stories of his cute girlfriend. Eventually, Mike introduced me to some of his coworkers when we bumped into them at the movies. I think I'd met each of them once as myself, so they never thought for a second who I might be. One day while getting dressed for work, I realized that whenever wasn't working, I was dressed as Belinda, whether I was with Mike or not. I shopped as Belinda, sat around the house as Belinda, and even went out some nights with the girls from the store as Belinda. This thought was just solidifying in my head when Mike walked into my room. "Hey, Barry. The Blue Sunday is having a Halloween party on Saturday. Wanna go? Sounds fun. Got any costumes in mind?" He grinned evilly. "Well, you've already got your costume, so." I punched him in the arm. "Just kidding. Actually, how about the hooker and pimp routine?" I lowered my eyes at him. "You expect me to dress up like a piece of meat?" "Okay, just a suggestion." He looked up in thought and suddenly got a glint in his eye. "Hey, do you still have that pregnant thing?" I cocked an eyebrow. "Huh? Remember when I first found you?" I suddenly understood and nodded while I brushed my teeth. "Well, how about you wear that?" I considered the possibility until my mouth was rinsed out. "Yeah, I could do it, but I'll need some other costume to make it work." "How about a nun?" "A pregnant nun? Sick." "Okay, a cheerleader." "That's a little trite." I saw an actual pregnant woman do that one last year. "Well, what do you suggest then?" "Ballerina." "Ballerina?" I nodded. His eyes perked again. "Oh, and I can be the pompous stuck-up ballet director with slicked back hair, smoking jacket and a pipe." "Well, you got the pompous part down pat." He pinched my arm. Now. I only let Belinda get away with that." "That reminds me." I considered telling him about my recent revelation, but decided against it. "What?" "Oh, never mind. How about we go to the costume and thrift store after work for costume parts?" He agreed. Between the two stores, we found everything we needed to make our costumes perfect. My outfit looked perfectly ridiculous with its pink spandex, tutu around my expanded middle, tiara on my head and fairy wings on my back. Mike couldn't wait to show me off. Saturday came quickly, and I spent the afternoon at the hair salon. I took the tiara with me so they could work around it, and I had them do my nails long and pink to match the outfit. When I told Rebecca about the complete costume, she burst out laughing and said it sounded great. When I got back to the apartment, Mike merely said, "Wow." After a light dinner, we got into our costumes. Mike looked great with his red smoking jacket, silk scarf tucked into his collar, and bubble pipe. The drive to the club was quiet, and Mike noticed I was fidgeting in my seat. "You okay?" "Huh? Oh, yeah. It's just. I've never been out like this before." "How is it any different from what you've been wearing for the last 7 months?" I opened my jacket slightly to reveal my belly. "You have to ask?" He laughed. "So? Instead of playing a lovely young woman, you'll be playing a knocked-up lovely young woman." His flattery always made me feel better. We got to the club and walked up to the front door. I could see scores of people through the glass doors and my nervousness rose again. Mike placed his hand on my shoulder and gently pushed me closer to the door. "Stay calm. Just have fun," he whispered. The first boost to my confidence came when a lady took our jackets and commented on my costume. She said it was wonderful that I wasn't letting the pregnancy slow me down. I felt much better after that. Our first stop was the bar, where Mike ordered 2 rum and cokes. The bartender took one look at me and asked what I would be drinking, not realizing that Mike had ordered for us both. I started to say rum and coke, but then I remembered how I looked to him and decided to go with a Shirley Temple. We hadn't had our drinks more than a minute before people started asking me about the baby. How far along are you? Boy or girl? Would you like to sit down? I was dodging as many questions as I could when suddenly Mike piped in. Oh, she's due any minute now. We thought a party might be just what it would take to get those little buggers to come out. Honey, maybe you should have a seat. Mike led me to a table near the dance floor and everyone graciously moved out of the way for my passing. After we sat, I tapped his hand and leaned in close. Little buggers? I whispered. Yeah, twins, he whispered back with a smile. I didn't. Come on, go along with it, he added. In the few seconds he gave me to make a decision one way or another, I couldn't see anything wrong with a little pretend for one night. It's not like it was much more pretend than we'd already been doing together. The night was wonderful. Mike and I only got on the floor for the slow dances due to my condition, and everyone was terribly gracious to me. I felt a little too pampered, but I was enjoying it. Sometime after midnight, Mike and I were on the floor dancing to Faith Hill when he whispered in my ear. Belinda? Yes? I need to tell you something, and you don't have to answer right now, but if I don't say it now, I don't think I ever will. There was a seriousness in his voice that I'd never heard before. Okay. There was a long pause and I thought he was reconsidering, but then finally he said it. I think I love you. I just kept dancing. I was in shock, and a tear rolled down my eye. You mean you love Belinda? I said with a tremble. Mike pulled back and looked into my eyes without missing a step. No, I mean I love you. Another tear fell. I dropped my head against his chest and wept as he held me tight. I wiped away the tears and chuckled. This moment was so perfect. I love you too, I whispered. Mike lifted me head to face him once more, and wipes a tear from my cheek. Then he slowly moved closer, and placed his lips against mine. He was so warm and gentle, I just melted. We held that kiss until the end of the song, and when it was over and we parted, more than one pair of eyes were on us. I smiled and wiped away the last of the tears, then led Mike back to our table. Sitting down, I leaned in close and tried to talk sensibly. Mike, this is crazy. It will never work. I noted a slight glint of disappointment in his eyes. My stomach twitched with hunger. Belinda. Barry. I know what it seems like, but we can make it work. I love you. I was just about to unleash a number of reasons why we shouldn't go through with this, but a sharp pain to my gut distracted me. Mike noticed. What's wrong? I don't know. Maybe my appendix. Another jolt hit me, harder and longer than the last. Mike was at my side as I nearly doubled over. I'm getting you out of here, he said, helping me to my feet and practically carrying me to the door. He shouted at everyone to move, but between the music and the amount of alcohol in their systems, the response was slow. Finally, he said it. Woman in labor. That got the crowd's attention and they parted like the Red Sea. A man dressed like a fox took up my other arm and helped carry me while a Playboy bunny ran ahead to open the door. I noticed genuine looks of concern in everyone's eyes, and I knew they were all hoping I would be all right. Finally, we were in the car and racing toward a hospital. The pain was getting worse, and seemed to sweep through my whole body. I wanted to thank Mike for his quick action, but I couldn't talk over the pain. When I could see the lights of the hospital up ahead, Mike placed his hand on my belly. When we get to the hospital, just go with it. All I could do was nod as another wave of pain hit me. He squealed up to the entrance and jumped out screaming woman in labor. Half a dozen interns ran to the car while others ran for a gurney. Mike helped me out of the car, and it was getting increasingly difficult to walk. The interns all took a limb and carried me over to the gurney where I was quickly rushed to an operating room. A barrage of questions came my way, asking my name, age, and how far apart the contractions were. I didn't answer and looked around for Mike, but he had been stopped at the front desk. "We may have to cut off your costume," I heard someone say. Fear of what they would clearly discover welled up inside me, and I tried to tell them no, but the pain stopped the words in my throat. "Did anyone get a time between those contractions?" one voice said. 40 seconds, maybe less," said another. "Let's get this off of her," the first one said. I tried to sit up to tell them to stop, but before I knew it my tights were being pulled off my legs. There was a flurry of activity and I suddenly felt the crotch of the bodysuit I was wearing go slack. I cringed with embarrassment as I felt my underwear come off as well. Everyone in the OR seemed silent, and I knew they were all just stunned at what they'd found. "She's fully dilated," someone shouted. "What?" I exclaimed. "Forget the rest of the costume. Get her prepped now." The flurry of activity continued as someone lifted my legs into 2 cold metal stirrups and they erected a screen over my midsection. A nurse was at my side telling me to breathe while someone stuck a needle in my arm. The pain hit me again and I began to breathe like the nurse was instructing me. It helped a little, but I could feel another surge coming on. "Push," someone shouted from between my legs. The pain washed over me and my entire lower torso seemed to contract. As the pain faded, I felt someone take my hand. "Barry?" Mike said through his surgical mask. "Mike!" I shouted as the pain hit again and I felt compelled to push once more. A head popped up between my legs. "Okay, his head is out. I need another good push on the next one." He vanished again. Mike patted my hand gently. "It's going to be all right," he said. "All right." I shouted, clenching his hand with all my might. "I'm having a baby, Mike." Another rush of pain and I pushed as hard as I could. Suddenly, the intense pressure between my legs was relieved. I gasped a sigh of relief. I heard a snip and then saw a nurse take a bundle over to a side table. That was when the pain hit again. "Oops, looks like he's not alone," the doctor voice said. Again pressure built up between my legs, and after 3 or 4 pushes this time, it was all over. Mike patted my sweating brow dry and praised my courage as they took down my legs and sat me up. One of the nurses carried a bundle over to me, and as I looked down I saw the face of an angel. I don't know how I knew, but this was my child, and he was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. As I was staring at him, I felt the nurse take my other arm and place another bundle in it. There, too, was an angelic face, this time of a girl. I was so caught up in the moment and happy that I scarcely recalled that I had been a guy less than an hour ago. Mike walked over and gazed at the babies. "They're lovely, Belinda." His use of my feminine name slightly snapped me out of the spell the little ones had put me in. "Mike, what happened?" "I don't know," he said with a smile, "but what do you say we just go along with it?" After a short stay in the hospital I was released with the babies and Mike and I set to figure out what had happened to me. It seemed that no one, not even my parents, remembered the old me. Mike was still my best friend and roommate, and I still had the same job, to which a phone call informed me I was now on paid maternity leave. My entire room was different, and a quick search came up with a journal that explained a lot. Seems the pregnancy was the result of a deadbeat boyfriend, who had run off when I told him about it. The journal also had a list of possible baby names, so I chose Tristan and Kristen. Mike quickly fell into the father figure role and 6 months later we made it official. We moved into a new house, and Mike got a promotion about 3 months ago. I quit my job to take care of the kids, but I still do some online story editing. Tomorrow is the twins' first birthday, and tonight I have a special surprise for Mike. It will be nice to get to experience the entire pregnancy this time, I think.